Hello everyone, welcome back. Today is all about understanding how to use a budget on-demand coffee grinder that is suitable for home, office and small cafes. I'm going to show you a specific brand here, but most of the principles apply to electric coffee grinders out there. We are going to talk about number 1, the features, number 2, how to use a coffee grinder for this particular coffee grinder, number 3, the various grind sizes and how to adjust, number 4, how to program the grinder to pull a fixed amount of coffee grounds each time. Number 5, how to clean and maintain the grinder. And finally, some troubleshooting tips. Let's talk about the features. This is a flat burr grinder. Flat burr grinders have 2 rings of burrs that sit horizontal to the ground. In this design, the coffee makes 2 90-degree turns. Coffee beans drop between the burrs, are ground through the burrs, and then drop again. Let's look at the material. It is housed in stainless steel. It uses 220 volts power. Electric consumption is low at 250 watts. The hopper capacity is 1 liter or 1 kilogram. There is an electronic control panel. The machine dimensions very compact. The weight is light at 5.5 kilogram, but I wouldn't recommend that you keep moving this grinder. Let's look at how to operate this coffee grinder. First, keep the hopper clean. You can wash with soapy water, but rinse it well. Also, make sure it is dry before you use it. Place the hopper on the grinder. Make sure the hopper safety is pulled in to stop the coffee beans from getting into the burrs. Pour your coffee beans in. Select the grind size that you are looking for. For this grinder, it is very simple. Turn to the right to go fine and left to go coarse. The dial goes from grind size 0, very fine, to 20, extra coarse. I would not recommend going too fine as it could clog the burrs. Make sure you know the grind size for your brewing method. To start grinding, pull the hopper safety out to let the beans drop into the burrs. Turn the grinder on. Press the desired button to start grinding. On the electronic panel, there is an indicator for the temperature of the grinder. Make sure it is showing a temperature around about the room temperature or lower. If the temperature goes up, that means the grinder is overheating. Make sure you turn off the grinder and let it cool down before using it again. There are 2 buttons that you can program according to your requirements. The first one is the one-shot button, which you can set to grind a certain amount of ground coffee. A one-shot espresso typically weighs about 9 grams of ground coffee. However, each coffee beans differ in density, so you will need to adjust each time you change your coffee beans. The second one is the 2-shot button, which you can set to say about 18 grams of ground coffee each time. The third button is a manual setting which you can start and stop at will. The default is set to 30 seconds. Turn off the machine after each use. Next, let's talk about how to set the grind size. Let's start with medium fine grind, which is suitable for mocha pots. Set the grind size to number 10. The texture of this grind should be smooth, but you should still be able to feel some bits on them. Next, let's set the grinder for pour-overs, V60, drip coffee. Turn the knob to number 15. The texture should be slightly rough, but not chunky. Next, let's set the grind size for French press and cold brew. I am going to set it to number 18. The texture of this grind is rough and chunky. Finally, let's look at the grind size for espresso. This is the tricky part. We need fine grind coffee. If you are changing the grind size from coarse to fine, make sure the burrs are working. If you have beans in your hopper, pull the safety in to prevent the beans from dropping down into the burrs. Press the manual button as you move from coarse to fine. Let me set it to number 2. Fine grind texture is smooth and slightly coarser than table salt. This grind size looks fine to me, but to get to the right grind for your espresso shots, you will have to do a trial and error method. Grind the beans, Distribute evenly on your filter basket. Tamp and pull your espresso shots. If the flow is too fast, set the grinder to finer, or you may even have to adjust the dose and the temp. If the flow is too slow, set the grinder to coarser. The perfect shot should take about 20 to 30 seconds to extract. Next, let's look at how to program this grinder. Let's assume we are setting the grinder for espresso shots, which is grind size number 2. Before we start, it is important to note that you should have a good scale. One with timer is good, but not absolutely essential. For single shot, the industry standard is about 7 to 9 grams of ground coffee. For my dark roast coffee beans, I am going to use 9 grams. Measure 9 grams of coffee beans. I am using here a dosing cup, which is really very useful. Purge your grinder. Place the coffee beans in the hopper. We are going to check the time it takes to grind this 9 grams of coffee by using the manual start-stop button. We started with 30 seconds and we stopped at 22 seconds, so the time it took to grind our 9 grams of coffee is 8 seconds. Let's put our ground coffee into the single basket filter. Distribute, tamp, and it looks just about right. If too much, reduce the time. If not enough, increase the time. So let's set the single shot button to 8 seconds. Press set, the single shot button, and move the plus and minus buttons to get to the desired time. Press set again to confirm the settings. Now, each time you need to grind 9 grams of coffee, all you have to do is press this button. There is no need to measure your ground coffee each time. Let's look at 2 shots. Using my coffee beans, I will need 18 grams of coffee. By the way, I find that the lighter the roast, the more coffee beans you need. Using the dosing cup, measure 18 grams of coffee beans. Purge your grinder. Place the coffee beans in the hopper. Again, we are going to watch the time it takes to grind this 18 grams of coffee by using the manual start-stop button. We started at 30 seconds, we stopped at 15 seconds, which makes it 15 seconds total. Let's put our ground coffee into the double basket filter. Distribute, tamp, and again it looks just about right. So let's set the double shot button to 15 seconds. Press set, the double shot button, and move the plus and minus buttons to get the desired time. Press set again to confirm settings. Remember to turn off the grinder after each grind. You wouldn't want your grinder to overheat. Let's talk about how to clean and maintain. The hopper is detachable and may be rinsed or washed with soapy water. Use a brush to clean the burrs. Purge with old coffee beans or cleaning pellets every once in a while. Clean the surface with a soft, damp cloth. Finally, let's talk about troubleshooting. The only problem I've found with this grinder so far is that it stops dispensing coffee. If your grinder stops dispensing coffee, do not be alarmed. You might have some fine ground stuck in the burr. Adjust the grinder to coarse grind. Grind for a few seconds to unclog or push the ground coffee out of the burrs. And it should go back to normal. So there you go, a very easy, budget-friendly, on-demand coffee grinder that can make your life a lot simpler. Life will be so much simpler if you can just press the button to pull your espresso shots. So 1 shot, 2 shots, and if you're using a mocha pot, you can also set it to say 18 grams or 9 grams of coffee. A quick reminder here, if you are going to use different coffee beans, you might have to readjust your coffee grinder. Different coffee beans have different density. I find that the lighter roast, you need a lot more coffee than just the 18 grams which I put here. So sometimes you might wish to put 20 grams if you're pulling a longer shot, so you just have to use the manual start-stop button. Don't forget to click that subscribe button for more of these video tutorials. In the meantime, stay safe, stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Ciao for now.